Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to this week's edition of Shelly Speaks Truth. I want to thank you all for joining me for this very important live stream tonight. I ask that everybody, please, when you come in, share the video and like it so that the video can get more visibility, and that way others will be able to join the conversation with us. Also, I will be getting to you guys' comments in the live chat tonight, so please share your thoughts and keep the dialect going. Before I get into tonight's discussion, I do want to go ahead and thank our sponsors, which makes these live streams possible every week. BUhosting.com. Please check out BUhosting.com if you are in the market for a website. BUhosting.com has very affordable websites, also website hosting. And right now you can get a website for just $11.11. You cannot beat that price. So please go ahead and check out BUhosting.com. Also, our other sponsor, urbancountryfilms.com. And if you are a content creator looking to boost your platform, please check out urbancountryfilms.com. There are several great shows on the network right now, mine being one of them. So please go ahead and check out Urban Country Films right now, where you can see my shows as well as many others. And as you all can see, tonight we are going to be having a very important conversation, a conversation that is actually very near and dear to me because I'm a person that's very big on family, and I feel that the family dynamic is very important in our communities. I do have a special guest planned to join me tonight, Miss Courtney Omega, and hopefully she'll be popping in soon here in a minute because I really want to get her insight on this particular conversation. We also have another segment that we will be doing later on. But I want to just go ahead and jump right into the discussion tonight because, again, I really do feel as though the family structure is on a decline. And with this discussion tonight, my hopes and what I'm hoping to get out of this is that I can help someone to see how important family is and get on the right track to mending relationships with family and being able to openly communicate and fix these broken family structures that I am witnessing out here. Now, on social media, I'm seeing a lot of, people trauma bonding over different things that have happened in their family. And as we can see right now, our very special guest host for tonight is here, Miss Courtney Omega. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit before I jump off into the discussion and just have Courtney go ahead and introduce herself to everyone watching.
Thank you again so much for inviting me. I'm smiling and laughing because I said we really both from South Florida. We both got on the chemicals.
Oh yeah.
We have on those sleeves in the middle of winter. I tell you, you can take the Florida girl out of Florida, but you cannot take that Florida sunshine out. Amen. So thank you so much again for having me, both Urban Country Films as well as Shelly Speaks Truth. Thank you so much. I always like to qualify my statements with saying I am not a licensed therapist. I am not an expert, but I am definitely a person that has committed to doing the work, as Iyanla would say, and taking my own life experiences in order to provide a cautionary tale as well as some type of advisory. I always say the only person I'm ever trying to really make sure and mentor are, I have a daughter and a son, my own children, my legacy bearers. But if I can touch anyone with my particular story or the things that I've learned from my experiences, both good and bad, then that's my hope. So I do have a channel on YouTube. It is Omega Courtney. We are the Glow Up Nation, the Glow Nation in full effect. What we do is offer glowing up and improvement. I got that term. My name is Omega. That is my natural name, Courtney Omega. So I said it rhymes, glow mega, omega. But I really got that when I said I want to use I want to use these aspects in my life in certain avenues in order to improve my relations and relationships with people. Not necessarily, because when we think about relationships, we always think about someone that we're in a romantic relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
But relationships in general are literally our key to how we navigate life. And so, with my background in communication and public relations, now that is something I am degreed on. But we take these avenues in order to plot a better life experience. And that is faith, number one, of course, family, fellowship, fitness, and finance. And so we use those to glow up. And I want to thank all of my Glow Nationers, my risers, my glow diggers for also tuning in today. So thank you again.
No problem. And thank you so much for being here. I enjoy your content. I recently subscribed to your channel, and the discussion you all had yesterday was so impactful. So everybody, please go ahead and check out that channel. Trust me, there is something that you definitely will take away and will learn. But just to get into the topic tonight, I think that the one thing that we actually have lost sight of is the meaning of family and what family is supposed to mean. Because again, like you were just saying, your family is your legacy. Your family is supposed to be your circle of people that you can depend on, that you can get that support from. And family in itself can be such a beautiful thing when it is structured in the proper way. So I think, for one, not just the fact that the family structure is deteriorating, but also the fact that a lot of people are not really even focusing on what the meaning of family is to begin with. And I think that's something that we got to get back to. Why do we even have a family in the first place? What is the purpose of that? And that's something that I think is being missed. And a lot of people don't even really place value on family anymore as they used to. So before I jump into my first thing that I want to talk about, what is your thoughts on that, Courtney? Like the value that is being taken away from family in general?
Let me tell you, sis, just as much as you've enjoyed my content, I'm enjoying yours. I was connected to your content through the Black Women's Sphere channel and was binging, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's really saying what I'm saying. And then when I saw the number being from South Florida, I was excited. But you're right on time as well with this topic. So thank you for mentioning the topic that we had yesterday. On Saturdays, I do something called the MX Media Panel. We are a media group, which means it's a group of content creators that have come together, and we are operating under the understanding or the appreciation that brother, Malcolm X, just lived his mission on, with knowing and with preaching that media was so powerful. Representation in media is powerful. And the reason why I want to lead into my statement with saying that is because my family, literally growing up, we were known as like the Daytona Cosby kids, because we literally had the same rundown and we had the same order. And that means I'm Rudy. I was the youngest of 5. We had the one boy, and we had the same order. We're literally the same ages as all of the Cosby kids. And because of that, I always just really attributed my family to being, very special, very special. My mom would, our Claire Roslyn, she would complain about, the house never being, cleaning up and things like that. And I just kind of chalked that up to being just everybody had that experience. I didn't really realize until I went to college that people didn't have that same, a family experience, just the things that, that I first learned of with people growing up in mixed homes, and people being not able to have certain amenities growing up. My father was a corrections officer, juvenile corrections officer, and my mother was a social worker. She led a family welfare distribution center. She headed it, the only one in Daytona Beach at the time. So I really the experience of family was something that was, I just thought that this is what all families were. And interestingly enough, as I grew and found out other families were not, as rich with knowing their history, their culture. Like we had a family historian, that would tell us, hey, this is where our legacy comes from. This is what we do. So it was always something very, a lot of pride in that. And as I grew to understand and appreciate that not everybody was cut from those same pieces of cloth, so to speak, and they didn't have those same experiences. And sometimes there was a lot of, honestly, there was a lot of animosity because you grew up in a two-parent household, or you grew up with like I said, I never knew about the world of evictions and utilities being shut off, and having to go over neighbors' houses to eat, and and it gets worse, of course, the family rape, and it really, as I grew, I understood this more. But oddly enough, also, just to let everyone understand and appreciate that no road, no relationship is without its complications. And even as good as my life was with my family, like I always tell my children, I have a daughter, I have a diamond and a son, I say, a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. And I always say, if I die today or tomorrow, don't cry, because I had a good life. I had a good life. I had, what they say, your daddy's rich and your mama's good looking. I had a good life. And we went out to eat all the time. Like I literally, when I married my ex-husband, and his family is very well off, but he said, they grew up, they only went out to eat maybe twice a year. And I was just like, what do you mean? So it was amazing, because they're so well off. I was thinking, clearly y'all have had this. So I could also see now that here we were in our adult life, here I was in a marriage, not understanding that, because that also showed different perspectives, different priorities that different families put themselves on. And so I was thinking, clearly a family this well off, you're going out to eat all the time. He was like, we went out to eat, twice maybe a year, if that. But again, as you grow, you understand and appreciate that different experiences shape your reality, right? And then you understand that different sacrifices pave the way for other appreciations. So I say that to say this, I, even with how I grew up, am having a very challenging time with my family and my adult life. I'm excited and giddy because I literally just reconnected with a cousin of mine that grew up like a brother to me. And we unbeknownst to each other until literally this afternoon, we live about 15 minutes from each other here in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I'm excited about reconnecting with him because since I've moved back to Atlanta, I've been, at first I was back connected with my nephews and with my sister here. But then after a couple of months, we aren't talking, and that hurts. I will say that it does hurt. And I want to say that these problems with family, they affect all families. And I think that's one thing that people generally think, that the issues that they have with their family, no one else has. And I think that programs like this are important because we need to debunk those myths. We need to debunk those ideologies that we don't have issues if you grew up with money. We don't have issues if you grew up in two-parent households. We don't have issues. My grandmother was the mayor of Daytona Beach, real live mayor. She was the first Black and first female mayor of Daytona Beach. We have a history that's rich in legacy, but we won't get together for a family reunion. This is, so that's why I say I never want anyone to look at anyone as though they have such a privileged life, because you never know what that person is going through. And that's something that my mom always made very clear. My mom would never talk about
communicating with someone, you need to be communicating with them to comprehend what it is they're saying and understand it from their perspective. And what I notice is that a lot of families, they will cut each other off because of a simple misunderstanding. And nobody wants to admit their faults. Nobody wants to admit that they're wrong. But the thing of it is that if you are not willing to communicate and say, hey, you did this to me and it hurt me. And, let's talk about this. Let's have the conversation. Let's mend this. Too many people are not willing to do that nowadays. And what happens is we see family members treating each other like complete strangers. And for me, like I said, I'm really big on family. And that bothers me because I know the beauty of what family can be if we are willing to put in the work to make that happen. And, I see it all the time. I see people getting on social media and, airing out their grievances with their family. And it's like, you need to be in somebody's therapy. You need to be in therapy right now. Social media is not really the place to get up here and, air out your family and talk about your problems. Because honestly, a lot of those people on there, on social media sites, they're there to be nosy. They're there to see what's going on in your life and, talk about it, talk about you. Social media is not the place to be airing out your family differences. We need to be willing to get rid of this stigma in our communities that therapy is not for Black people. That's simply just not true. People have to understand the beauty of being able to be in a therapeutic environment where you can say what you have to say without judgment, and you can have a mediator there and have a conversation with your family so that they may be able to see your perspective and understand where you're coming from without talking at each other and actually talking to each other. So that's something that I really feel like, this applies to all families, but especially in our community, because I don't understand why therapy has such a negative stigma in our community. It's like, I don't need therapy, I'm gonna go to church. And it's like, just understand what therapy is and see how it can work for you. You see a lot of people online with these memes where they're joking about it, but it's not really funny. It's not really a joke. And, one of those memes are a Black kid comes up to their parents and they're like, Mom, I'm depressed. And she's like, you better go depress them dishes. And it's like, if your kid comes to you and tells you that there's something wrong with them, you need to take that seriously. But again, understanding the value of family, it's not just raising your kid up until they're old enough to get out of your house. Family means so much. And again, once we begin to put our focus on what that really means, then we will begin to be able to mend some of these dynamics in our relationships, where our children will have a sense of value of family, and even our extended family. Like you were saying, you had a really good environment growing up, but the family won't get together for a family reunion. And, I feel like, what is the underlying issues that are going on there that the family won't get together? People need to be able to talk and provide an environment where everybody can communicate with each other and get out what it is that they need to say, and not be, not have someone get upset with them, cut them off, and not speak to them for long periods of time. Because we say it all the time, oh, I'm tired of getting together at funerals. Well, while that person is here, you have the time to talk to them. So, what is it? Why do you think that we're not doing that?
So you brought up a couple of good points. I was trying to reconfigure my because our lights are the Georgia sun is just now setting. So I was trying to reconfigure my lights, and my planner is actually on the other side. So I will cam off because I keep my prayer journal out. I take notes, but I did, from what I remembered, what you said was when you talked about Facebook is therapy, church is therapy, because both of these are free avenues. You have to understand the number one reason, like I said, this is why I have to go back to Brother Malcolm. Brother Malcolm, literally, I'm a student of Malcolm X. And his principles, I've created a curriculum from them. A curriculum that I offer for free to nonprofit, for-profit, and after-school youth organizations and programs. But at any rate, representation is everything, Shelly. I cannot say that enough. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a person that is a member of the media. Again, you know, from Florida A&M, you know, with being a part of just journalism and a great journalism J School program. Let me give my shout out to my Rattlers and my HBCU alums. You know, but I learned so much from, I had professors that not only poured into the profession of journalism, but the importance, the significance of communication. That is literally what my degree is in, communication. The sub of that is the journalism, but the degree is communications, because you hit it right on the head there. Communications and the importance or the significance of them, excuse me, mean nothing without the representation. This is what drives it. And because growing up, even with the Cosby kids, you didn't see them going to therapy. You saw them working it out with their parents, you know. So therefore, what happens when those people do not have the parents, you see that they're not wanting to be kind of there's no place to go, there's no outlet. Because what do I do if I don't have those parents, you know? Mm-hmm. If I don't have the parents, what do I do with that? So with that being said, let's get into, because you said it also too with the church, but then the church, that's another story, you know, because churches get cliquey, churches get churches have their own family issues. There's a lot, especially the Black church, there's just that is happening within the church even, so that's not even an outlet. So where does the person go that is needing the help, but is also supposed to be providing the help? This is what's happening in our, unfortunately, I even saw, unfortunately, when I was an elected official in Miami. I was a councilwoman in Coconut Grove. I was the youngest elected council member in Coconut Grove. And even with being elected to represent these families, to the community, the families that make up, because communities are made up by families. When I would go, this item is coming up. We need to talk about housing. We need to talk about education. We need to talk about this or that. Be there. Well, I can't come because I have to work. The reason why we can't think about therapy, Shelly, is because we're trying to survive. Therapy is something of luxury. You understand? Therapy is something that rich folk do, even though the average household will tell you that they have what they have been spending. Okay, that's where it goes back to priorities. They have to spend, but they're not going to spend it on therapy.
I get, I'm having a little bit of a problem hearing you, Courtney. Your connection is fading just a little bit.
And they're going to spend it on retail. they're gonna trip.
We're having a little bit of a problem with the connection. So while we get that figured out, I'm going to jump into a quick commercial. And on the other half of that, we're going to get back into the discussion.
It's Urban Country Morning. Early in the morning, let's go.
Dear Heavenly Father, I just come before you.
No, it doesn't have to be a caring hand. It just has to feel like a caring hand.
Bruh.
Are we making masculinity out to be a bad thing then?
All in your life. What's most important to the child is they have the right to have both parents now.
Exactly.
Florida.
I just want to try.
Hosting.com, home of the 1111 domain. BUHosting.com.
All right, guys, thank you for checking out those brief commercials. We are back into the live discussion right now with my very, very special guest host for tonight, Courtney Omega. And we left off on communication, and we were talking about therapy. You know, my thoughts on it was, I feel that for families, therapy is very, very important because you get to sit down in an unbiased environment and speak to each other with a mediator in the room. Because sometimes when we're talking to each other as families, we want to get our point across and we don't want to hear anything else after that. So Courtney was saying that, you know, sometimes we're trying to survive and therapy can be a luxury. But, there's people that you can reach out to in the community that will be willing to provide those services for you. And when I said that church isn't therapy, I meant that church isn't a place where you go to avoid talking to the people in your family. If you are going to seek help from the church, it should be, to me, from a standpoint of maybe speaking to your pastor and asking if he can provide those services for your family. But again, Courtney, for the sake of time, because my goodness, I didn't even realize how fast this thing is going, because we're so up into it, and there's a lot of good points that you're making. But I want to jump real fast to my next question that I have for you, because this is something that I struggle with, because I hear a lot of men saying this in our community, and I really feel like it hurts the family dynamic when they say that Black women don't want men to take on the leadership position in the household. And I feel like that does hurt the family structure, because a lot of men are walking out on the family because they feel like it's a power struggle between them and the woman. And what I feel is that a lot of men don't understand that women are not looking to take on that burden of being the leader of the household. Yes, we're a team, and we're gonna provide support, but we don't want to carry that weight on our shoulders, especially not on our own. So, what is your thoughts on that? Because we see that a lot, especially in this space right here, this YouTube space, where men, especially our men, they have this misconception that we want to head the families, and they use that as an excuse to run out on the family.
This topic by itself is an hour plus. That's why I said, even sis, the other night I was on I had a panel, and it was an hour, and I had to say, you know what? I had to have a talk with my Lord and Savior, and I said, God, just give me the discipline just to cut it off after 2 hours, because you're banging your head against the wall. Because let me tell you, this has been so disappointing for me to see on this YouTube side. I will say that. I just started, I know you're fresh as well. So I just started this channel last year, almost about a year ago, last October. And when I first came in, and I thought, great, we're going to be like, once again, because I am having problems with connecting with my own family, I'm like, this is going to be like a family to me. We're going to be familying it up and da-da-da-da. And I was like, I was soonly aware and greeted with the understanding that if you have these toxic issues and you hit it right on the head, we have the lack of communication. We have and that creates a huge seed for it implants a huge seed for division. We have the lack of communication. We have lack of representation. We have lack of priorities. We have a lack of discipline. So you add all of that to just the individual, and then you put that individual on YouTube in front of another audience. What we think going to happen? And so I couldn't believe that the other night I'm on, I know that you're new to my channel as well, but I've been single and celibate. I've been divorced. I was married at 19. I've been divorced for 8 years. I've been single and celibate for 6 years now. I have 2 children. And I don't date. I always make that disclaimer. I do not date. I have, like I said, I have a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old. Us going out is a date to me. When we get out, it's a date. I don't choose to put myself on the dating scene in order to, leave my children to do what while I'm out finding a man, what have you. So I think that a lot of these conversations that people are having in these YouTube streets, so to speak, these issues, they're bred from there, because they're bred from, because let me be very clear, I think there's a whole lot more debating going on than communicating. I love that my sis, Queen Evelina Brown, said that. people will get on, they want to debate, they don't want to communicate. And that's what's happening when people are dating. People are dating because they're wanting to get something out of it, but most of the time it's not marriage, it's not family for most, I think, you know. So I say all that to say this. These rudimentary problems in regards to how people see family, how they see, you know, how can you say that a woman with children is you know, is a no-no? Oh, you know, you would tell a man, a woman with children is a no-no because she's gonna have baby daddy issues and da 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 da. How the same men that are saying this rhetoric 9 times out of 10 were raised by a single woman.
Mm-hmm.
And you telling me your mom couldn't have benefited from, you know, having a real quality man? You know, I give this little story, and I'm not going to hold too long to it, but I give this little story just to, you know, let people know. And people always say, oh, that was years ago, what have you, but still, my mom tell you a little story, like what John Cougar Mellencamp said, a little story about Jack and Diane. Tell you a little story about Roz and Richard, okay? Richard and Rosalind met in college. She had already been married and divorced. She had 3 children, young children. My dad was a U.S. Air Force vet. Decided he didn't want to go back in. Decided he was just going to go back to college, wanted to finish out college. Met my mother. Decided that, hey, you know what? He had no children, had never been married before, but he decided that he was, in fact, going to love her children as his own. He got her a house. They got a house together, you know, got married, of course. And then 4 years after being married, I came along. And I tell you, I was 9 years old before I realized that my siblings came from another father. And the only reason how I found that out is because their father was coming to pick them up. Oh, that really blows people's mind. Oh, their dad was still in their lives? Yes. And I would be whining because I was little and I didn't understand why they got to go off with somebody and I didn't get to go off with nobody. And so I was crying so much. My mom and dad talked it over. It wasn't too much of a talk. It was more like, well, Richard, she want to go. And he was like, you know, okay. And I will say that now we can have a real conversation about that with the way we communicate to one another in relationships. Mm-hmm. But my dad agreed. And I used to go off with his name was Daddy Thomas. My mom and dad would allow me and my other sister to go off with, you know, my siblings' dad. And he would take them out to eat. We would go out to eat. He took us to the fair. And so he treated, you know, his siblings, his children's siblings well, because his children were treated well by, you know, his sibling, his children's stepfather. And I tell you, that was something we weren't allowed to say in my house either.
So
my dad was no stepfather.
I'm sorry not to cut you, but you're saying that you went off with the father of your other siblings.
Yes.
Okay. That's another thing that I wanted to hit on real fast before we jump into the second segment. But in the comment section, Real Deal Radio has a question for you. It says, if you're not dating, how can you be commenting on dating? How do you even know what's going on the dating scene?
Oh, let me tell you how I know. The same way we've never climbed Kilimanjaro, but we know it exists, right? We study. I study. I watch, you know, many reality. I watch many shows. I taken the experiences of friends of mine that are dating. Just because I'm not putting myself out to be dated doesn't mean I'm not exposed to the dating world. I'm definitely exposed to it. And I can tell you this, I never was a dater, so to speak. You know, when I met my ex-husband, it was, we were at FAMU, and I met him on the set, and he called me the next day, and I tell my children all the time, for 15 years he never stopped calling. That's the way it was. I wasn't in a series of dating. Now going out, I can definitely tell you I would have less of a conversation about, because I don't go out, I don't go out seeking, so to speak. Like I don't go out to clubs or anything like that. No, I'm a mom, and I'm with my children the way it should be. But and I'm not interested in dating. I'm interested in being courted. And I feel like being courted is something that can happen from a number of places. I can meet a gentleman at the bookstore, at the library, when they open back up. Thanks. But and you meet people at places where you share a passion. That's where that relationship really starts. That's where that bond really starts, because you're at a place that you share passion. Literally, so after my divorce, I was in two relationships, and both of those relationships happened organically, not going out to meet, but I was at a speaking and engagement for one, and at the other relationship was at a fundraising campaign. So I'm not like recluse and living in my, I like I said, I go out and shop every day. I'm very active. I don't have a car, so I'm like, if we don't get out and walk and get to places, then they're not gotten to. So I'm exposed and I study. I'm an observer, but no, I'm not an active dater.
So this is I want to hit on this last point. Real Deal Radio said you're confusing dating with looking, but I want to jump into the last part of this particular segment. One thing that I've been noticing is that people really don't want to get married anymore. And I know that marriage is not the end all be all. It's not. You can be married and then you can be divorced, but I feel like marriage is at least the foundation of starting out on the right foot. And we are in a place right now, especially with the younger people in our community, we're in this baby mama, baby daddy era where people want to have the baby, but they don't want to have the family. And to me, that is one of the biggest things, especially in our community, that is destroying the family structure, because we're not really even starting out as real families. We hear it all the time, especially in these rap songs, but that's just not in the songs, because it's being carried out into the real world. Somebody being attracted to someone and then wanting to have a baby with them. That's not what family is. And bringing children into this world is very serious. And, giving a woman a baby, laying down and creating a child, you should want to start that relationship off with a family structure, in my opinion. I don't understand why so many of us are feeding into this baby mama, baby daddy thing. It's like, no, start the relationships out with commitment so that you can build an actual family. That part right there is confusing me, because even when I wasn't married, and honestly, when I had my first daughter, I was not married, but I wanted a commitment. I did want a commitment. I wanted a family. So I'm really not understanding that. Maybe somebody can help me out, because that right there really confuses me. And I think that once we begin to explain to this generation coming up behind us that, start off with a foundation, start off with wanting a family at least, and try it. Because we have too many children out here with no sense of family, because a baby is being dropped off in every house and the person is gone. So real quick, Courtney, what are your thoughts on that with the baby mama, baby daddy culture and people not wanting to start off with the foundation as a family?
You know, it's really good. Um, Not even good, but it's really significant that these conversations are taking place right now in this day and age. Because I promise you, I wrote a book called The Blank Next Door, literally about 8 years ago. And because some things happened with the publishing company, that book didn't get published. And so I've been sitting on this book. I've been sitting on this book for some time. And so now I can see why God had me sitting on this book, because there were so many things that I hadn't even, because at the time when I wrote this book, I literally was just at the top I was just at the top of divorcing. So I wasn't even 1 year into my divorce. And I hadn't seen, as Brother Real said, or Sister Real TV, I hadn't even seen dating. I hadn't even seen or understood what that portion of it meant. But with now being divorced and on the outside of a marriage for 8 years now, I can see how it's not that they are looking to have these children without a substantial relationship. Quite honestly, people should not be, they shouldn't be having sex during the dating phase. You just shouldn't. Because when you're dating, you're still trying to get to know someone. We're lacking discipline, and that comes in for a lot of confusion, because sex, that is what it's primarily supposed to be used for. I said, it's amazing that when I try to explain this, because, like I said, I have used to run some youth programs in Miami, and I would break this. I was a part of a youth for abstinence program, and when I was explaining this to what do you mean? How can you be in a relationship and you're not you're not having sex? And I said, that's like saying you have a car, but the only thing you're doing with your car is you're just going to work every day. Mm-hmm. And the eyes go big, because it's like, I said, so what if you had a car? Now imagine people do have a car, and yes, the primary focus of it is maybe to go to work. My cat's trying to get some camera time, excuse me, I'm trying to block it. But you do go to work every day in your car. But imagine if you were told, what if that was the only place that you could do with your car, And they say, well, that's not fair. And I said, why wouldn't it? You have your car. You're supposed to be going to work to make money for your household, for your life. Mm-hmm. That's it. But right. What you're doing in the car is you're going everywhere. You're going everywhere. But then when that car breaks down, what's the first thing you say? I can't get to work. Mm-hmm. And I can't get to work. But you weren't using it to go to work.
Absolutely. I feel like you're 100% correct. I'm losing you a little bit. But I agree with you. Like I was saying, it's going to be kind of a hard sell.
You weren't using it to just go to work. And so to me, not to reduce babies, right, not to places, but
I think we lost your mic, Courtney. But
I was on mute.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were making a point. I was on mute.
No, I was just saying that I agree with you. I really agree with you. I don't know how easy it's going to be to get this generation to not have sex while dating, but I agree that we need to
Then
be more
they're
committed.
going to continue to repeat the cycles.
Right,
They're
because
gonna
like you said,
yeah.
we do need to teach the youth to be more commitment minded. That's something that is a whole other conversation within itself, because there's influence outside of the home that also plays a role in the destruction of the family. And I didn't really get into the systematic part of it because a lot of us are already aware of how the system is working 24/7 to especially be the downfall of the Black family. We know that for a fact. We've seen it at play for a very long time. But you touched on the other half of the segment already when you talked about dating. And my question was, why is it that women are treated so harshly with their dating practices? And it's not really, we don't really see that with men. A lot of times men are encouraged to date as many women as they can and get that part of their life over with. And women are taught to be a little bit more chaste and just wait for that person to come along. But I think that does more harm than good, because women don't really get to explore their options that much. And we end up being in a situation where we are told that we need to wait for that person to come along, but we don't have too much to compare it to, because they're telling us not to date because of how it's going to make us look. And I'm glad that you said dating does not have to mean sex. Dating should be getting to know a person. And this is something that I wish that I would have been taught. Like, I wish that someone would have set me down, my father especially, and let me know, like, get to know that person and don't feel pressured to do these things with them, because that's not what dating has to be. But I think it's a double standard. But we, for the sake of time, I want to go ahead and give you these last couple of minutes, because you do have something that you want to present to the audience. And I got my copy in my email the other day, and I can't wait to be able to have that time to sit back and really get into your book. So before we conclude, can you let all of our watchers know about your book and where they can find it?
Thank you so much again, Shelly, for not only just allowing me the time to share about the book, but also for being a supporter and picking up a copy for yourself. I always give a side eye to people that say, yeah, I love to share with my audience. And I'd be like, well, what about you? But I didn't have to even say that. You said, let me pick up a copy. So I appreciate that. But the book is actually my debut novel. This is a relaunch of the book. I did write this book literally when I was 4 months pregnant with my daughter. And by the time she was 4 months old, it was published. It is a tale. Like I said, it's a cautionary tale in what happens when someone puts passion before priorities, and how your life can really, really take a different turn. And you know what? And I think that really ties into what we're talking about, because I think it's so easy to sit back. Once again, we can sit back and we can watch somebody else and we can say, oh, they shouldn't go there. Watching our lives is like watching one of those scary movies, right? Where you see, oh, don't go down that alley, but we're going down that alley every day. And the book is available, that is through direct sales only. That means there is no middleman. You get the book and the link directly from me. And for all watchers today, if you go ahead and send me an email at Group Glow Up, I'll put it in the chat as well, groupglowup@gmail.com, and you put in the subject title from Shelly Speaks Truth, I will give you the book. It is half off. And the book already, as you know, Shelly, is very conveniently priced. Mm-hmm. But for all of your viewers today that put in that code, I will give you the book for half off. So please I'll drop the link. I'll drop my email address into the chat, and I would love to have you there. But to respond to that conversation in regards to women and dating, when I tell you, again, y'all, I'm a mother, but I'm sensitive. I'm a Cancer, so that comes naturally, y'all. I was on a live Friday night, and it was a 5-hour live. And when I tell you, I've never blocked anyone from my channel. I haven't in the whole year, and I've had some issues, but I haven't blocked anyone. I would refuse people from going to the panel, but I would never block anyone. For the first time ever, I blocked someone from being on my show after Friday's show, because let me tell you what this gentleman did, and I use that word gentleman loosely. He told me that I shouldn't have demands. As a 42-year-old woman with with a 42-year-old woman, mother, I should have even more demands, in my opinion, than what I've had before. I should have even more demands. But he told me I shouldn't have any demands. I hit the wall and my biological clock is ticking and I have issues. I said, well, we all fall short of the glory, but I've never hidden the fact that what I need to work on, I work on. Yes, in my marriage, I was very combative with my ex-husband. Oh, he also said that I shouldn't be, nobody wants to hear about my degrees and my accolades. And I said, you know what's so upsetting with that, Shelly? The only men that have ever had a problem with that has been Black men. Why would that upset you? And I said, well, the way to cure me, the way to shut me up about my accolades is have some that are better. Shut me up then. Because I tell you, my ex-husband would tell you, I never argued with him about my education because he was a lawyer. He was a professor. So, I would have arguments, but it wouldn't be about, oh, I'm this or I'm that. Shut me up. Shut me up. But I had to block him because what happened was I realized that if I allow that toxicity to come into my space and other people are exposed to that, then I'm going to be a part of the promotion of that ideology. And it is a sick one. Mm-hmm. A mother should have even higher standards of who she's dating, who she's bringing into her children's lives. How dare you tell someone that they shouldn't have demands? Absolutely. My children are legacy bearers. Right. And so if you're going to be in front of them, then then you better make sure that I need to make sure back and forth that your credence checks out, that you are someone of high caliber, high characteristic. I never said that a man had to be a millionaire to date me. Sure, it'd be nice. But I tell you what, you should have a millionaire's ideology. You should have a millionaire's discipline, because you can become into money overnight. That doesn't make you a better person. I understand that. Absolutely. And then he said, like I said, when he said that, talking about my accolades and my family history, people don't care about that. And I said, maybe the people you are sleeping with don't care about that, but I do.
Well, oh my God, I wish we really could continue this conversation.
We need to make a part 2. We're gonna do it on my channel. We're gonna do a part 2.
Yeah, because I have a huge problem with that. And that was on Kevin Samuels had a young lady on his show, and there were some things said that I did not appreciate. But again, thank you to everybody who tuned into this live with us tonight. Again, I hope that you all were able to get something from this conversation. I really want to see everybody mending those broken relationships with family members and teaching our children the beauty of family. Again, thank you to the sponsors, urbancountryfilms.com. Please check out my website, Shelly Speaks Truth, at urbancountryfilms.com. And I will see everyone next week. Thank you so much for being here, Courtney, and we're going to talk later.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. I really had a great time, and I am so sorry. I'm long-winded too, so I